A father has said that he will forever live with the guilt of calling the police to assist his son, after Thames Valley police were called to his home in order to try and help his son, who was subsequently restrained and later died. 39-year-old Neal Saunders died on the 3rd of September 2020 after his dad Ron Saunders called the police for help with his son's acute behavioural disorder, something he now says he wished he had never done. An inquest jury looking into Neal's death heard that his father had called police to his home for help after his son was displaying symptoms of paranoia and acute behavioural disturbance. Neal was then arrested on suspicion of assault, handcuffed and restrained by several Thames Valley police constables.
There's no one else in here.
Right.
They're all in there.
Okay.
Of course, then he booted the door.
ABD.
Fucking does what's fine.
It's here on his ankles.
I've got one in my pocket.
Stay down, Neil.
Shit, I don't like that fucking shit. I do it, bruv.
Neil, relax.
Sorry.
Keep breathing.
Please. No. Yeah?
Get that pillow against the wall.
Yeah.
Smack his head on it.
Yeah, it's alright. I'll set up. Oh, I'm proof.
Shortly after being taken to hospital, he died. It was heard that Neal was being restrained for a total of 75 minutes, and during this time he repeatedly claimed that he couldn't breathe. On Friday, the jury found that it was appropriate that Saunders was restrained during the incident, as there was no safe, practicable alternative. The jury also found that although Thames Valley police were trained to avoid prolonged restraint, they were not trained to assess when restraint becomes prolonged, and that the position in which Saunders was carried to the ambulance may have more than minimally contributed to his death. Not trained to assess when a restraint becomes prolonged. I mean, is that an excuse? I would think that more than an hour is an incredibly long time for someone to be restrained, and would certainly put it in the prolonged category. Ron Saunders had said that he would never have called the police for help if he knew that they would have restrained his son. He said, "I thought the police might be able to help calm him down." And, as utterly sorry as I am for his loss, I have to say, it's a terrible way to find out the police are fucking useless, and the older generation need to open their eyes to the state of the police in this country now, as it's nothing like it was when they were kids. Thinking the police would calm down a situation is an utter joke. They don't want to attend an incident and simply walk away. They have to dominate and make sure that everybody knows that they're in charge by escalating situations, then arresting people for retaliating to the police's persistent pushing. Ron said, "I defy anyone to be restrained like Neal was and feel able to breathe properly or be calm. I've learned the hardest way that the police don't seem to be the right agency to respond to someone in Neal's condition. I wish there had been an emergency crisis service with properly trained medical professionals who could have helped Neal to relax and get him the treatment that he needed. I live with the guilt every single day that Neal might still be alive if I hadn't called the police, but there was no other emergency service who could have helped us." Neal spent his very last moments in life restrained by officers for over an hour, and then restrained face down in an ambulance for over 10 minutes. There has got to be another way of responding to someone in Neal's condition, so that no parent has to experience what I have. Now, I understand that there are shortages in medical care for those with mental health issues. I've faced those very shortages myself, but one thing I would never do is call the police for help in that situation, whether it be for myself or for somebody else. The only time I would call police in that situation is if there is immediate threat of harm, and the only safe thing to do would be to get the person arrested. But when it comes to mental health, many people just don't know how to deal with it. They either don't seem to try and calm the situation down themselves, or they don't realise how hard the task of trying to calm someone down can be. It can take several times longer to calm someone down having a mental health crisis, and patience is a must. That's something that police generally don't have. It's been spoken about for a long time now that police forces should have mental health nurses or other mental health professionals on hand, and I think this is a great use of taxpayers' money. It means that a single police unit can attend a mental health crisis call with a professional to assess and talk the person down, rather than police having to turn up all gung-ho with 4, 5, 6 or more police constables who haven't got a fucking clue what they're doing, with training that sees them all jump on someone when they think it's going pear-shaped, instead of taking a step back and realising that a reaction from a person that they're dealing with might just be due to their mental health crisis rather than an attempt to do something to the police, such as pulling away. Some conditions will mean that the sufferer won't want to be touched, but when they are and they pull away, the plod overreact and pile on the victim, making things 100 times worse. Of course, my thoughts are with Saunders, but when you rely on the police to help a situation, you are essentially causing the inevitable outcome yourself.